from the Newsmax studio in New York City, here is Steve Malzberg.
The Rebbe and his brother-in-law, I think they were both approaching 80 at the time, or maybe in their mid-70s, they took a Sefer Torah, the Torah scroll, and they went into the center of this hall, surrounded by all the Hasidim, and there was a light that shone from the ceiling and bathed them in a pool of light. And I see these two old bearded Jews dancing in a circle of light with the Torah. And I felt the strength of generations, the power of our traditions, our faith, our people.
All right, folks, very, very moving words from Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's talking about Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, and joining us now is Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, the author of Rebbe, The Life and Teaching of Menachem M. Schneerson, the most influential rabbi in modern history. Rabbi, welcome, sir.
Oh, Steve, thank you so much for having me.
No, great to talk to you, and such a great man, a powerful man, an influential man, and it's such a great book, and congratulations on hitting the New York Times bestseller list.
That was a great pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, yes. All right, so for people who don't know who Menachem Schneerson was, what he was all about, what his significance, talk about him.
He headed a Hasidic group called Chabad that when he took the leadership of it in 1951 was a rather small group, and he turned it into the most dynamic group in modern Jewish history, most dynamic religious group in modern Jewish history. He has representation now in 48 of the 50 American states in 80 countries. And he had a mission. As Jonathan Sachs, the former Prime Minister, the former Chief Rabbi of England, put it, he said, if Hitler hunted down every Jew in hate, he wanted to hunt down every Jew in love. Last year, the largest Passover Seder in the world was held in Kathmandu, Nepal. 1,100 people attended, many of them young Israeli backpackers. So the reach of his vision extended to the whole world.
And how did he accomplish that?
He set up the idea, when John Glenn first circled the world and John Kennedy announced that by the end of the 60s there would be a man on the moon, he said a Chinese proverb teaches a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. He knew that any step a person took, it could be lighting Shabbat candles, it could be giving charity, could lead people on an enormous journey back to Judaism. They needed positive things to do, things that brought a sense of sanctity and purpose into their lives. And he then appointed emissaries to go out throughout the world. He never left his office in Brooklyn, except on rare occasions, but he had emissaries going everywhere.
And to accomplish that, you know, when people see the Hasidim community or the Hasidic community, they question. To some, it's almost, to some who are really ignorant, it's stereotypical of Jews, you know. But explain what the difference is within the Hasidic community and what the appeal was and the welcoming nature of it, because most people from outside would view it as a closed community, but yet you're telling me he was reaching out and just the slightest interest, the slightest inclination to do this or that would be a welcoming into the community.
He preached an ethic of non-judgmental love, which is very rare. You know, every 4 years during presidential races, I'll ask audiences if they're passionately political or passionately conservative. Can you think of a single reason someone voted for the candidate whom you oppose that doesn't reflect badly on their intelligence or character? And few passionate liberals or passionate conservatives can do so. He preached an ethic. I identify 7 ethical teachings of the Rebbe in the book Rebbe that can help anybody, Jew or non-Jew alike. And one of them was he expressed a mode of how to disagree with somebody without becoming disagreeable, because he recognized the overwhelming commonalities between people. Whereas most of us, when we have a disagreement, only focus on the disagreement. He focused on the enduring commonalities.
And within the Jewish community, there's plenty of disagreement, politically and otherwise. How did he view more secular Jews or Reform Jews or Jews who were not as strict to a tradition as he was?
He searched out the commonality. So when one of his followers came to him and proudly told him on Rosh Hashanah, on the Jewish high holidays, I conducted a service for 180 Jews who had no background. He said to him, what do you mean no background? They're the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. So he found something with which he could identify in everyone instead of looking for what he could disagree. That's why a number of years ago, Eric Yaffe, the head of the Union of Reform Judaism, said at their annual convention, it is hard for me to say this, but I must say it nonetheless, we all have to learn from Chabad, the movement the Rebbe headed.
And where are we now? What the movement that he headed after the Rebbe, where is it now, and how is it progressing?
The Rebbe died 20 years ago. We're about to commemorate the 20th anniversary of his death. Once he became sick 2 years earlier with a stroke, and after that he was never able to speak, it was widely predicted that the movement, which had had a meteoric rise during his lifetime, would stagnate or decline. It has since more than tripled in size. As I put it, it's now in over 80 countries. I identify 7 what I call virtues of the Rebbe, which give his followers practices that they can incorporate in their own life. And those practices, by the way, apply to Jews and non-Jews alike. On Amazon, the book is #1 in Christian leadership, not because it has anything directly to do with Christianity, but it's for all religious
Well, you named
people.
one. Give us quickly a couple of the other.
The optimistic use of language. He was very, very aware of the fact that people's orientation to the world is very much influenced by the thoughts they put into their head with words. What I learned from this, I've stopped using the word deadline. You're in this business, you must hear the word deadline all,
yes,
the time.
All the time.
He said it puts negative associations in people's minds. What happened is I now use the word due date. One connotes death, the other connotes birth. So that's yet an example of one.
Very, very, very simple, very subtle, yet could be very, very meaningful. For the others, ladies and gentlemen, the other 7, the 5 of the 7 that you haven't heard, I urge you to become one of those who are doing what lots are doing, as evidenced by the fact that this is now a New York Times bestseller, and pick up Rebbe, The Life and Teachings of Menachem Schneerson, the most influential rabbi in modern history. And Rabbi, just great seeing you. Thank you for coming in. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. You were very kind.
And best of luck. All right, folks, we're going to come back with more of the Steve Malzberg Show. We have one of those free segments, so I'll be telling you what I think. Don't go away.